This is the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for the 10th of September 2024. Welcome everybody to the meeting. Just be advised everyone that this is a public meeting and it is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. Only voices, not faces. People at the back will suddenly be pleased to hear. So, you as well. Do we have any declarations of interest? There are none. Minutes of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting held on the 27th of August 2024. I was not present, so I can't comment on them. Everybody happy with them? Thank you very much. We'll take them as correct. Chairman's announcements. Firstly, I'd just like to thank Vice Chairman for stepping in at the last meeting. I was away because I was attending a football match. Might sound brief. It's probably my team's only win of the season, being an Everton fan, so I actually saw them win. So apologies for that. And we were actually away on a holiday in the northwest of England, so managed to coincide both events. Yes, no, we won't. I'm not going to Bournemouth ever again. We have. I've noted from the last meeting that there was concern, or there has been concern raised about the brevity of the report that was received about the customer experience programme. I think we all appreciate it when reports are concise, but there is concise and there is where you scroll to the next page and realise there is no next page, and it's a little bit too brief. And so brief that actually you don't feel you can get any information from it that is useful. That taken into account, we need to ask officers to report back on that in more detail, and really need to get to the crux of what members would like there to be within that report, what particular elements and details that need to be expanded upon. So with that being the case, I think it would be good if we were to members of this committee email, do we say it should be Sinead, with any particular comments that you want drawn out, so we can ask officers and give them sufficient time to prepare the documents and to prepare the answers that we want. And then what I'll do is I will meet with Emma and Sinead to flesh any other elements out that we can really address, let's put it that way, but that would be really useful. And on the same basis, Emma will report back that we feel that the report itself should be brought forward to next month, and Emma's found a time for that, but she'll report back on that later on within the agenda. There's nothing else to report, so we'll move on to public speaking. No public speaking. Okay. Item 6. Supporting young people, and we have some invited speakers, and this is being led though by Mike. So I hand over to Mike. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Committee. So we've got a report tonight about young people. I'll just introduce everyone in a moment. But looking at, we decided to bring in one of the things Overview and Scrutiny asked before is about to come in early with information and work to work up proposals rather than just wait until everything's all done and then come in for a final report. So one thing we want to do today is to come in with those initial kind of raw findings. There's a chance for ONS just to review those findings, understand what young people are saying in our district, and then looking at them to taking that forward to then working up into proposals. To do that, you could, and I know I'm young and I look young, but I am 51, but and we've got some really young ones here with us. But I thought I'd bring in some actual people to talk to you tonight who actually wrote the report as well and wrote the consultation. So there's a chance to talk then. We've got Jen Clark on over here, who's a Children's Services Manager, works with the schools and communities team. Inspector Mike Austin, who's our local police inspector who coordinates activity in the Broadland area. We've got Michelle and Cyan from Mancroft Advice Project, and we've got a range of young people at the back. So the Mancroft Advice Project, which will introduce themselves in a minute. So they run the Youth Advisory Board, and you'll see the report as you detailed in the report tonight, and young commissioners. So these guys at the back They're all trained in supporting and developing projects and programme in their district area. So they're all Broadland residents, and the idea is that they then support that development. And we know that when the voice of young people are heard, it contributes much better to policy formation and development. So we really want to do that. So you can see on the report today, there's two consultation documents. The Youth Advisory Board's own plan. So this is the guys. These ones are specifically written at the back, and there's obviously more of these guys, and they've gone out to consultation and asked young people what their views are and what the priorities are in the area. The other one is a community safety report, and that's Norfolk wide, but Broadland residents would have contributed to that. And that's looking specifically around community safety as well as young commissioners. They've looked at everything from youth members of parliament right down to youth offending team, people in targeted youth support. So a whole range of young people have contributed to that. So what you've got in front of you tonight is this is what young people are saying are important to them in the district. So a chance to, one, hear from the young people themselves, and Jen and Mike, just to do a few minutes each, and then a chance to just explore where that might go, with then the intention of giving feedback to me that I can take that away, and we as a collective can work up future proposals, whether that's individual specific items or whether that's policy formation or whatever. We can take that away. So we're going to start off with these guys at the back. So you just have to press your button and wait for it to go red, and then away you go.
So I'm just going to introduce myself first, and then I'll let the young people introduce themselves as well. So my name's Michelle Bibby. I'm a youth work coordinator at MAP. So I oversee various projects, including 6 youth advisory boards, and that includes the one here as well.
Hi, my name is Amelia, and I'm a young commissioner for Broadland Yard.
Hi, my name's Maisie Fletcher, and I'm a young commissioner for Broadland Yard.
Hi, my name is Jason, and I'm one of the co-chairs for Broadland Yab.
Hi, I'm Becca, and I'm also one of the co-chairs for Broadland Yard.
Hi, I'm Cody, and I am an attendee of Broadland Yab.
Hi, my name's Cyan, and I help run Broadland Yab. As a youth worker at MAP, sorry, I should have added that. Oh, did you not press the button? Oh.
So I should probably introduce who we are. We are a youth advisory board, as you can already see, and we have been running for about 12 years. Our purpose is to give young people a voice and be able to do something about it. Even if that is just doing the slightest thing, it still makes a count. We have worked on our consultation. We have spoken to 11,000, and they have spoken to us. Our main way of gathering data, and our top priorities are exam stress, mental health, and park and outdoor spaces. And of course, young activities for young people and anti-bullying, since it is a major problem. For our anti-bullying, we have anti-bullying conferences, which is the 14th of November 2024. This will be using 1,550 quid. Our activities for young people, our activities fund is 11,000, which is on the September 24th. Our park and outdoor spaces, or should I say the right to play, is wanting to make parks is wanting to make parks more accessible for young people with disabilities, whether they can be seen or not. Mental health, we have exam stress bags, which we are working on 4 schools, such as Taverham, Acle, Elsham and Helston. These will take 7,000 to make, and 14,000 young people will receive a bag. So that's about that, but we do a lot more than we do seem to do. Our total budget is 22,300, and we hope you can support us in a way that will help.
So you can get an overview there of what these young people are doing. But they're here tonight because they really need your support. You know, there's 2 key areas there that they'd really like to hear from you guys about, and that is the parks and outdoor spaces, making them more usable for young people, making them feel safer for young people, and making them more accessible for young people. So we'll tell you a little bit more about our Right to Play campaign in a little while. And the other one that you need the support with is they're looking at me. I've got 6 of these. Is the activities. So more activities for young people. So I think that was one of their top concerns, that young people living in Broadland said that there's lots of sports clubs, but actually, particularly in a time where families are really struggling financially, that there's a real lack of activities and free activities for young people to take part in. So the YAB has a small budget that they're going to use to look at local providers to see what they can do, but they'd really like to talk to you, their local council, and see if there's anything that you can do to help them with that. Not necessarily financial, but looking at what's already out there. Can we publicise it better to young people? Could you come out and speak to young people and see what they actually want and sort of improve upon the services that are out there? These young people are happy to meet with you anytime and to have that conversation. Hopefully you've all got a copy of their action plan. And I believe Science brought some copies of the Right to Play as well. So would any of you like to speak about the Right to Play campaign?
The Right to Play campaign is basically where we want to make parks more accessible, as we've said. Us, as a YAB, and many others have already been around a range of playgrounds just to see what is already there. And we think that a lot more can be done, but from what we have seen, it's not too bad, but it still is an issue that needs to be sorted out. And even if you can't see disability, it doesn't mean it can't be taken notice of. So we just think that if we work hard, and not just for our generation, but many to come, let alone adults that struggle with disability, it will make it a lot more safer for different families, and it will make children feel a lot more appreciated and seen.
Fabulous. Thank you ever so much for inviting the service here today. I'm representing Children's Services, and particularly the School and Community Service, which just celebrated its 1 year birth date, if you like, in August. And it's fantastic to be able to hear the voice of the young people, because that is the centre of our service. We work very, very closely with the young people within not just our zones, but across Norfolk, to try to implement their voice in what we do. The service itself is focused on working within schools to identify local young people who have emerging SEN. As we know, this is one of the denominations of young people who are some of the most vulnerable in our county. And we also know that sometimes that is quite difficult to both recognise and to find the appropriate help. And our service is here to be able to recognise that and support both schools, families, and most importantly the young people, to be able to bring down the barriers to education, which for so many of our young people have meant outcomes that did not meet their potential. It's fantastic to hear things such as the exam bags being thought about by our YAB panel over here, something that I'd love to follow up with you, because this is exactly the kind of partnership work that the service is involved with on a regular basis. We work with a wide variety of partners and colleagues from both the service, but the YAB itself we work with, as well as lots of other services, including the NHS, to bring together partners around young people through their schools, through their local community, and through their networks, to try to enhance the provision that we have. What I'd like you to consider today, if possible, is any advice, any strength, or certainly any connections that you can bring our way to strengthen that partnership, so that we can do more for the community that we're serving and do more for the young people that we support every single day. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Inspector Mike Austin. I'm the Broadland Locality Inspector, and I'd just like to echo what the Youth Advisory Board have said. Obviously, from my policing perspective, I've been in Broadland now for nearly 18 months, and I think we've open spaces, play areas have been a continual concern for us. It's been a policing priority over the past 2 summers in order to provide or try and create a safe environment for children and young people to attend. we will continue to work so we can get my teams engaged with children on a regular basis. And again, that's reflected very similar views, as you've already heard, about having appropriate things to do, appropriate activities, and safe places to go and play. Obviously, perception as well, the media is always very negative around certain environments. So again, from our perspective, being visible, being open, engaging, does help spread the conversation. And again, I echo and would support the work that is ongoing, and hopefully that will come out of this piece of work.
Thank you. And just to I guess finish it off, there's two examples recently that I've seen, and I've been looking at communities and open spaces for 16 years now. A recent report came out looking at open spaces and activities are very much geared around males. And it was interesting about this is the Women's Charter and campaign for to support women and girls. And actually, young person spaces, when town and parish councils and district councils look at areas, they look at a male-dominated focus. They'll look at a skate park. They'll look at that type of stuff, rather than female spaces, which are more geared around just a physical space and you can relax in. So it was really interesting to see that even in my 16 years, I'd never even thought about actually we've got a male-dominated play area. So so the things that can change, we can do. And another example about activities as well, I sit on the Children's Safeguarding Board, and it was just literally the other side of the road of Broadland in the Norwich area. But a serious case of you about a 17-year-old who was killed by drug dealers, and he had a mum and dad who loved him very much, very supportive household, but really struggling with bills. Mum and dad were working excessive hours just to kind of keep the family afloat. And what that young man did, he didn't get support at home because mum and dad were too busy. So he went and tried to find support out in the community. And unfortunately, because we've got a lack of spaces, of positive spaces and activities, the only person he found that could support him was a drug dealer, and got into drugs and then eventually was stabbed and died. And this was a Norfolk case. So you can see the importance and the power of having positive spaces and role models out in the community. Now that's just one area, let alone all the other stuff that young people can do. So we've got an initial report here. There could be a whole number of ways that we could take this. What we can do is to go to our different policy committees and look at different areas of business. What we will do is we will agree to engage with the YAB, and we'll take forward the action plan and see what we can do. But really welcome, Chairman, that what the committee feel we can help support with tonight, and to bring this back in a year's time to actually, the one thing we young people get told a lot, but nothing progresses. So actually, if we nail down right in a year's time, we're going to come back with some really positive stuff. Actually, it puts incentive on to actually go and do something about the problem. So happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, everybody who's contributed. I know it's a bit weird having to come here and speak in front of us lot. Some of us are older than others, and perhaps you feel, oh my God, what do they know? But we all have a lot of dealings with young people within our communities, or sometimes within our jobs. I'm a primary school teacher, so I deal with children much younger than you. But it's really important, the issues you talked about. I've got a couple of little notes I want to ask about, but I'll give other people a chance first. Caroline, you wanted to say something.
Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate you coming tonight. I did attend an event at Barnum Broom, I think it was last year, about the right to play, and I haven't got my badge on at the moment, but I normally wear my right to play badge. I think as a council, I'm particularly interested in planning, and I push for more disabled equipment on play areas. A lot of people here know I go on about disabilities a lot. So I'm really happy that you're here, and I hope you're very successful in your campaign. Thank you.
Adrian.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just looking for this, I think I've got an opportunity I can link YAB up with. So I represent Spraston Town Council as well, Spraston Central in the district. So we have land allocated and funding allocated to build a skate park for young people. I think we'd really welcome some of your design input into that process. So let's join forces and we haven't started building it yet, but we've got the money in place. So you tell us what you want, and we will build something for young people, not just a skate park off a developer's plan or something. So yeah, so reach out to me and we can get something done there. Because I'm passionate as well, because I think when it comes to open spaces, you know, it's a bit linked to the planning issue as well. A lot of the open spaces that new developers and new sites give us are poor quality, late, not on time. So you know, young people in a new housing estate got nowhere to play. And then when they do get built, as we've seen in some places in Sprowston, the quality and the maintenance is poor. So that's something we're pushing at a town council to improve. But I think there's stuff we can also do here at council to hold developers more account to, you know, delivering these services for young people, because I think they're important. But yeah, reach out to myself and we can get you linked into the design process. No. Great.
Thank you, Councillor Bill. And what I'll do is I'll link you into Michelle, and we'll get those. I'll make a link on email, and you can request that straight away. So thank you for that.
I've got Pete. Peter next.
Thank you. May I just agree with my colleagues and congratulate you on all the hard work that you've put into this. This has worked out very nicely, actually, because I'm a Thorpe St Andrew councillor, and only last night we were discussing youth focus with one of our Thorpe town councillors, who you may already know from his Helsden days, Danny Buck, and we have delegated Councillor Buck to liaise really with the schools and in local areas to try and form a partnership with the young people and to get more provision in Thorpe St Andrew. Another thing that we discussed last night was the setting up of a park run scheme, which is still in its infancy, but we do want to include a park run specifically for young people of different abilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Eleanor.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all for coming and moving on from some of the comments that have been made about planning. I just wondered if I could make some more specific suggestions, if possible. So, first of all, in terms of I don't know if it's possible whether we could, as Broadland, have a policy that say, when plans come forward, we would like developers to consult or at least contact YAB or whatever appropriate organisation there is to ask if they have any input. Because sometimes when, I'm not sure if young people are involved in that process, because quite frankly, a lot of the money comes through when plans come through for development, and most large applications, it all comes under what we call reserved matters. I'm not sure whether young people are consulted. So we're presented with a plan. We've got one coming through actually tomorrow at committee, where pretty much the play area has already been developed and set out, but I don't know who actually put that process together. I suspect that probably young people weren't consulted. So if we could say as a district, we'd really like to see young people consulted for every application, not just some of them, for applications that have a play area. Secondly, would it be possible to have a policy that says that when a parish or a town council is developing a play area, because they may well own the land or have been awarded the land, as it were, for development, that they make an effort, if possible, to consult young people and actually put that in some sort of policy, so that we know that that would be the procedure we'd like to see happen. The other thing is, when developments come forward, I know that we often do get quite a lot of comments from the police about safety, design. There is a police representative who nearly always comments. I can't, out off the top of my head, remember whether they always comment specifically on the play area design and the safety, but if that's an issue that seems to come up for young people.
Sorry, but to report the generic Home Office or whether there's specific concerns for that particular area, but they will review all planning applications.
It might be useful if we actually specify to the police that we would like, when those plans come forward, some specific look at the play area design that's being put forward. And the other thing that I'm interested in the comments about male and female play spaces and provision, and I'm interested to know what the young people think about that.
Before I go to anyone else, I just think, obviously you made a lot of suggestions which sound great in principle, but I know that planning is very much a quasi-judicial process where we're having to follow central government laws which we are applying. So I'll just ask Emma for her comments on what has been said.
Thank you, Chair. So the Chair is right in terms of planning. I mean, some of you sit on planning. We've got the Chair of Planning here, so I'm sure she'll have a view as well. There are certain rules, etc., that we need to follow when we do planning applications, certain things that we have to request and certain things that we can't. So I absolutely understand the sentiment of what you're driving at. Whether we can actually do that and still make sure we're within all the right policies, etc., I would have to take away and have further discussions. We can't mandate some of these. Some things you can mandate, some things you can't. I can't give you an answer in the room now whether we can mandate some of these things or whether they would need to be advisory. I can take away to look at the 3 points that you've raised, Councillor, but I can't actually categorically say whether we can enforce that or not. So I don't want to give false hope. It is something that we can have a look at, but I'm not convinced we can due to the I can never say that word. That's the one of that committee and making sure we have to follow the MPPF and the decisions that are made.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to say that, I mean, we do have documents that already lay out the advisory position in terms of we do hope that developers do consult with town and parish councils. We can't mandate it, but we do actually have procedures that we like developers to follow. So I can't see why we wouldn't be able to include young people in that as an advisory document. And the other thing is we actually have a supplementary document for planning in terms of play areas anyway, for LEAPs and LEPs. So that's different types of play area design and what we expect from those. So it would we'd be able to consult with young people to see if they're happy with that document that we have or whether they would like to see it revised in some way. I think we've probably had it for quite a few years now. I don't remember it coming forward for revision recently, so that would be quite interesting to look at too.
Yeah, so I don't disagree with the sentiment at all. I'm just laying in that word of caution that I don't want the young people to go away thinking that we can do all of this when actually we just need the time to consider it and make sure we take it through properly.
Is that something you could look into and bring forward, or that could be discussed at a future meeting?
So I would have a discussion with the Assistant Director Planning, probably also with Caroline as Chair of Planning Committee, and we can talk those through and have a look at what that could look like.
We've got Caroline want to come back on something, probably with her planning and possibly even parish council hat on, I don't know, because of things said, and then Shane after.
Okay, a couple of things. Just to answer Eleanor's question about parish councils with play areas. When we did ours in Tavern, we did put a consultation out to all residents, and I think most parish councils do that, so we had an idea of what the residents wanted. Okay. The other thing is, in Tavern, we are looking to change our youth provision for the youth club, and I would welcome some advice from yourselves on what young people want. We have a youth club now, which is not well attended, and we just want to attract more youth into the clubs. So if you could, I could link up with them later, Mike. Yeah, to get some advice.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you. And I think, I mean, the one thing when we set up, because I was on the board that set up youth advisory boards in 2012. So young commissioners, the aim of young commissioners is to be a body who are trained and ready to consult. So, for example, on all the 3 examples we've had today, so it can be difficult for parish council, understandably. You know, we're going to consult with young people. Well, where are they? How do you engage with them? Well, here we've got a conduit to a whole group of young commissioners, but also they've then got the conduit down into the local high schools as well. So you know, there's a really clear link to be able to do that. So we can tie that all in those 3. Yeah, well, absolutely, and you know, I can't imagine that you know, town and parish councils are full of old fogies, but But yeah, but you know, and it is, and I think, you know, one of the things, and I can remember as a young boy going to my parish council to ask for something, and you know, you're just sitting there with a great big male dominated, at the time, this was in the 1970s because I'm old, but you know, and it's quite intimidating. And then of course, you know, one of the things that town and parish council say, well, young people didn't really give a voice. Well, if you don't create the environment to make that in a warm, you know, comforting environment, actually it might be that you consult young people outside the parish council and bring their views in. You know, so there's things you can do, isn't there? And I think that's the way. If we're going to make a step change on this, you know, we need to rethink the way we do that as well. So, but there's a really good opportunity there.
Shane.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I just want to make a point that in a male-dominated skateboard world, the world champion, Olympic world champion, is a girl. In my parish, it's quite a small sort of villagey area, and we did look at making provisions for young people, but the cost sort of far outweighed our ability to actually create it. So we've got a lot of people, a lot of youngsters, especially the like 11 to 16-year-olds, who have this sort of common mantra: "There's nothing to do," which is a sort of a hard nut to crack. But maybe from what you're doing, and I've got to say, excellent report, and it's really great what you're doing, and it would be nice to be able to provide us with some sort of link that we could perhaps pass on to those youngsters who think they've got nothing to do, that maybe they can get involved, or that you give them information for things to do.
Thank you. Point that stood out for me was you mentioned about exam bags, and you know, I do think there's a lot of pressure loaded on. My son did his GCSEs last year, and there can be enormous pressures and quite debilitating for your mental health, for your mixing, socialising with friends. You know, he sort of turned himself into a virtual recluse for 5 months beforehand because he became obsessed with it, and you know, he did very well, I was pleased. But he, you know, I know it can be a real stress. As a primary school teacher, we try to do everything we can around the SATs to remove, you know, because it's only up to SATs, which we do, but we try to make the SATs the best week of the year, not the worst week of the year. And that's about having lots of treats and rewards and things like that. So I think that's a really good idea. I mean, I'm taking back to the idea that, you know, they used to give children goodie bags on planes because children used to scream and cry and stress about taking off. And if you gave them a goodie bag, they completely forgot, well, you know, they didn't, but it was something, oh God, I've got something, this is nice, someone's thought about me, and it's a distraction. And just getting something which says, we know this is a stressful time, we know this is, you know, hard on you, but actually someone's just having a little thought. It's the same sort of thing when my mum had cancer. She got a little goodie box from Norfolk and Norwich, and it was only a small thing, but it just made her feel like, oh wow, that's so nice. So I think that's a really lovely idea, and I think that's something which just says, in a way, we know how you're feeling. Some of us have gone through this. Some of us are going to go through this. I think that's really lovely. The point that was made about planning, I think the other thing is that sadly, it's the way when you talk about that example, that boy who was stabbed, we sometimes disjoint new communities. We build a new community within a village. We don't put any of the services until the very end. We don't even put pathways into the very end. I say we, it's not us, it's county council. The pathways aren't finished. It means that they, you know, they put in the lower level and there's raised drains and everything, and it says, you can't even make friends in your area. You've got to travel out of your area sometimes to make friends. So you put yourself in danger of going to places where you don't know people, you don't know the safe places. You've lost links to your safety net, your group of friends who will look out for you, because you might be going beyond that. And it seems that's nothing that we're going to be able to crack easily, but it does worry me that we seem to create communities which don't seem to work cohesively very quickly. So, and, you know, around the play spaces, you know, they're so important. So, thank you. Has anyone else got anything they want to add before? Oh, Adrian.
So there's a bit here around budgets and venue hire. It says here about youth commissioners would like to approach Broadland District Council and ask for a reduction in the cost of the venues. But yes, Carabrook Council, I don't know if any officers are picking it up to look at, because it's a very small amount of money a year for venue hire. I don't know if it's been looked at at all.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I've had a chat with the AD of Economic Growth, and we've nailed that down. So yeah, it was we were the only district who were charging, and I felt that was a trifle unfair. And quite frankly, considering we also attend the YAB, so we're charging for our staff to attend as well, which so that's been knocked on the head. So that's been sorted.
I've also got a comment from the back, so I'll pass over.
Yeah, I just want to go back to your parks and empty open spaces and your planning, just to say that we across the YABs currently are working with a lot of our parish and town councils around the Right to Play campaign, and young people have already been heavily involved in the planning of new open spaces. They've been working with building companies, they've been working with their parish councils. In some places, they've actually stopped parks in their tracks and completely redesigned them because of the voice of young people. And that could be the pathway. You know, we went to one park where they'd put in a disability swing, which was fantastic, but the pathway was wood chip. How does that help somebody with a wheelchair? Somebody had ticked their box, let's have an accessible piece of play equipment, but hadn't actually thought about how you get there. They stopped building that park, young people got involved in the design, and they completely changed it. So, you know, it can be done because we are doing it. And I know, Caroline, you were there. You know, we're trying to get all of our councils to sign up to our policy, our agenda that young people have written around this. And, you know, young people are currently already working with our local government, but they're also part of the National Play Agenda campaign at the moment, which is a group of MPs that have come together to write a policy that's going to feed back to government. So it's already happening. You know, the young people are already going to Parliament to talk about this, to talk about open spaces and play equipment. And how great would it be if when they get there, which they will, that Norfolk can say, we are already doing this. As a county, we have already looked at every one of our parks, every one of our open spaces, and we've already made them accessible, not just for young people with a disability, but for the parents that have to take them. You know, when I went out with young people, we saw young people that couldn't go to a park because the parent was in a wheelchair and they couldn't get to that play equipment. So this isn't just about designs for young people, this is about designs for everybody. And you guys in this room, you can change that with the help of these guys. So it can be done because we're already doing it. And let's make Norfolk the first place to make this happen in all of our parks.
There are, you mentioned about parks and pathways and accessibility. I mean, I represent Horsford. We've got a pathway that has been put in recently to make it accessible, but it's been covered with shingle rather than tarmac because they said it's not going to be very well used. Well, of course it's not going to be well used because it's been covered with shingle rather than, and it's just ridiculous. And we've also got historically an estate which was put in about 5 years ago, which has a giant loop of the pathway, follows the road and goes round, as it were, like that. Bus stop is there, the estate is there, there's parkland on the inside, everyone moans, all you young people walk from there to there. And you go, well, of course they do, it's the line of least resistance, it's where the pathway should have gone. But everyone on the estate goes, look, they're walking through the pathway, they're wearing the grass away, and you go, that's where the path should have been. And people actually, when I say that to them, they go, oh yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? So of course it does, but it saves 80 yards of walk. So why, you know, we make things sometimes look pretty, but just not very practical. So, yeah, there's so many examples, sadly, but we need, you know, people just, sometimes it sometimes takes a young person who perhaps is not stuck in the system of going, well, that's the way we always do things, to actually say, why on earth are you doing it like that? So, thank you very much indeed. I don't think we've got anyone else expressing a willingness to or need to speak.
There are so many companies out there nowadays with SEN equipment for play. And even just a simple thing like a picnic table that we put in Taven. It's a wheelchair accessible picnic table. Simple things like that we can do. Thank you.
Thank you, every one of you, for coming along this evening. And you're welcome to speak.
I'm just going to add something about the exam care packs. Coming from a school that's already started their GCSEs 2 years early, I think that a lot of us already understand, since most of us are doing GCSEs in a whole, how to help people our age. And I know that obviously, depending on your age, you've already done O-levels. I think it was called back in your age, if you're that old. I doubt any of you are, but you look very young.
Be careful now.
They test it. But I think that we have a relatively good understanding, but we would like some support in a way, because obviously we are kids, we can support kids, but at the end of the day, we all have mental health, much like adults. I won't diss that. We all have issues, but I think some of us make it unseen to try and burden adults less, and I think we also need to work on that, not just in exam periods, just in natural periods as well, since myself and many others don't speak up much about it because we worry about repercussions or things like that. So I just thought that if I added something from a young person talking about stress, because some adults say, oh, wait until you're at adulthood or something, even though stress can be the same, depression can be the same, anything can be the same. It just depends on what experiences you've had.
I did the last year of O levels, 1987. So, yes, and I'm probably one of the younger ones here still. Well, there you go. So, so yes, we are very elderly. But thank you. No, you're right. One person's stress is another person's crisis, is another person's strength, and we can't make judgments about. Some people thrive on stress. Some people, a small amount of stress can be far too much for them, and yet you may have some other strength and something else that you can do brilliantly that would absolutely panic me. So yeah, I fully understand. And mental health is something which I'll be very open. It's something I have to deal with all the time. I'm not on antidepressants at the moment, but that's actually something I've not been on now for about a year. But for most of the last 15 years of my life, I have been. So, and I'm very open about that. Oh, it's me again.
It's alright. I was just going to add also, in many schools there's young people that work in mental health, including myself. I'm one of the mental health captains in my school, so I do get some stress on how to deal with certain situations, and I just feel like some adults don't understand that we are stronger than we seem generally, that we're not we're weighed down by the stress, but we're not at the same time. We are more resilient than it makes out. And I think that the children that react in a negative way, much like some of my peers, that's just a cry for help in a situation. And some people don't understand that, and that's taken as a punishment, even though sometimes it should be, sometimes it shouldn't. It just depends on the situation, and it depends how well you know the kid.
Thank you. We'll move to there is just a recommendation. Oh, sorry.
I'm very sorry to butt in, but I'd like to make the pledge on behalf of the schools and communities team that we would like to work with you to make that a reality. So the bags that you put together, and to work with you to put in a programme to support Broadland schools so that we can get your message out to the young people who need them. So we will swap emails and we will swap details, and we'll get a time where we can work together so that you can join us as a co-developer in developing that programme that we will get out this year to young people that need it. Your views are fantastic and so bravely said, so thank you.
Thank you. We'll obviously have a recommendation, which is to review and comment on the consultation documents in the report, and to endorse officers to work with young people and partner agencies to support the key priorities identified in the report. All those in favour of the recommendation? Wonderful. Thank you ever so much for all of you coming along here. We do appreciate it, and all that you've done. Thank you. Just give me a few seconds. Debbie doesn't like a cold chair.
got so little. Do you want to close it?
We'll just, because we've just got a bit of a changeover, we'll just pause the live stream for 2 minutes, and then anyone can get a drink who needs to as well.